Hello, my name is Amanda Gamble, and I'm an associate in the Family Law Department here at Beresford booth. Thank you for being with me today. Remember that scene in Legally Blonde where Elle Woods aces the Harvard Law exam? Well, while that might be a bit of Hollywood magic, there are real-life women who've shattered expectations and rewritten the rules of the legal game. While women have made significant strides in the legal field, they continue to face challenges, particularly in achieving leadership positions. The increasing presence of women in the legal profession has brought diverse perspectives and experiences to the table. So why are we still talking about women's equality in the legal profession? Well, gender disparities still exist in terms of compensation, partnership promotions, and work-life balance. The legal system, renowned for its rigorous traditions, has historically been a bastion of male dominance. Nevertheless, through perseverance, talent, and fierce commitment to justice, women have slowly but surely carved out a place of honor and respect within its esteemed corridors. Today, my hope is that you learn a little and take a moment to self-reflect on how you can be a part of the solution to gender disparities. It only makes sense that we start from the very beginning with our early pioneers. Women like Arabella Mansfield and Belva Lockwood, who faced significant barriers but paved the way for future generations of female lawyers. 1648, Margaret Brent was America's first woman lawyer. 1869, following in Margaret's footsteps, Arabella Mansfield is the first woman barred by the state bar in the state of Iowa. 1872, Charlotte E. Ray was the first Black woman to become a lawyer and admitted to the District of Columbia bar. And in 1879, the first woman, Belva Lockwood, was admitted to the bar of the Supreme Court, and a year later became the first woman to argue a case in front of the Supreme Court. This, of course, was after the Supreme Court denied her original application, stating only men could argue before the Supreme Court. And it was not until 1981 that a woman, Sandra Day O'Connor, would be appointed to the U.S. Supreme Court. This brings us to our 20th century trailblazers. Legal titans like Constance Baker Motley, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and Sandra Day O'Connor shattered glass ceilings and fought for gender equality. These are just a few examples of the many trailblazing women who have made significant contributions to the legal profession in the 20th century. Their courage, determination, and legal acumen paved the way for future generations of women lawyers. I want to spotlight Constance Baker Motley. She was a civil rights activist and a judiciary trailblazer. Constance was the first Black woman to argue a case before the Supreme Court. She was a key figure in the legal battles that led to the landmark Supreme Court decision in Brown v. Board of Education, which was the 1954 Supreme Court case that ruled the separation of children in public schools based on race was unconstitutional. She personally argued 10 Supreme Court cases, winning 9, and assisted in nearly 60 cases that reached the High Court. And in 1966, she was appointed to the Southern District of New York, making her the first Black woman to serve as a federal judge. Next, we have the notorious Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Arguably, no individual did more than Ruth Bader Ginsburg to transform the legal landscape for the better on matters involving gender. The history of American women is one of discrimination on the basis of sex, but not until 1970 did the Supreme Court find that such discrimination was unconstitutional. Ruth Bader Ginsburg briefed or argued virtually every major sex discrimination case before the Supreme Court in the 1970s. It is for this reason that she is often called the Thurgood Marshall of the women's movement. And here are her 5 major victories. Brings us to our modern day icons. Women like Amal Clooney, a renowned international human rights lawyer. Clooney has taken on high-profile cases involving war crimes, genocide, and political persecution. Kimberly Crenshaw, a leading scholar of critical race theory, Crenshaw coined the term intersectionality to describe the interconnected nature of social categorizations such as race, class, and gender as they apply to systems of discrimination. Michelle Obama, a former First Lady and an accomplished lawyer, Obama has used her platform to advocate for education, health, and women's empowerment. And if you haven't read her book, Becoming, it is a great read. Malala Yousafzai, a Nobel Peace Prize winner, Malala is a passionate advocate for girls' education. She has used her legal and political knowledge to fight for the rights of children worldwide. One of our other modern-day icons are Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. She is obviously most well known for being the first Black woman to serve in the Supreme Court of the United States. Justice Jackson is a highly respected jurist with a wealth of experience as a federal judge and former public defender. She attended Harvard for both undergrad and law school. She was a clerk for Justice Stephen Breyer, which she speaks about in some detail in her book, Lovely One, which is another great read. And prior to becoming a justice, she served as a judge for the U.S. District Court for the District of Columbia from 2013 to 2021. She also just fulfilled a lifelong and longtime dream of hers and debuted on Broadway. In her book, she speaks a lot about her path to being a lawyer and a mother of two and a wife to Patrick Jackson. Our next modern day icon is a local face and one many would agree is worthy of making this list. But first, I think it's important to note that while women make up 47% of associates in law firms, the numbers drastically decrease further up the hierarchy. Only 22% of equity partners and 12% of managing partners are women. And then the gender pay gap even further widens this divide. Which brings us to our very own Beresford booth modern day icon, Demetra Scott. While she is no longer the only, she was the first female partner here at Beresford booth. She was named a partner in 2016 and has been with the firm since 2004. Since her time here, she has drastically grown the family law department and now leading an ever-growing team. Simultaneously, she is also championing a reputable practice for adoption and reproductive rights. Demetra is known for being a considerate yet fierce litigator. Many of her clients have commented both on her wealth of knowledge of the law and her compassion. We are very fortunate to have Demetra bringing a woman's perspective and her sound wisdom to our leadership team. Now it's some time for some trivia. Which groundbreaking legal case, argued by female attorneys, helped dismantle racial segregation in American schools? If you guessed B, Brown v. Board of Education, you are correct. True or false? Ruth Bader Ginsburg was the first female justice on the U.S. Supreme Court. False. Sandra Day O'Connor was the first jurist on the Supreme Court. Female jurist. True or false? Iowa was the first state to change their laws to allow women to practice law. True. True or false? President Bill Clinton appointed the first woman to the Supreme Court. False. It was President Ronald Reagan. Constance Baker Motley, a prominent figure in the civil rights movement, made history as the first African-American woman to... If you guessed C, serve as a federal judge, you are correct. So how can you support women, not just in the legal field, but in all professions? Can speak up, challenge sexist or discriminatory behavior, even if it's subtle or unintentional. Amplify female voices, highlight contributions of women in meetings and other professional settings, sponsor women, nominate women for promotions, leadership roles, and awards. Examine your own bias. Be aware of your own bias and how it may impact your behavior and decision-making. Seek feedback regularly. Ask for feedback from female colleagues to identify areas of improvement. Do this with intention and not just to check a box. And lastly, stay informed and continue to learn. Keep up to date on issues related to gender equality and diversity in the legal profession. Today, we skim the surface of the history of women in the legal profession. You can start by digging into our early pioneers, our 20th century trailblazers, and then really learn about our modern day icons. Ruth Bader Ginsburg at one point was asked, when will there be enough? When will there be enough women on the Supreme Court? And her answer was, when there are 9. People are shocked by that, she said, but there had been 9 men and nobody's ever raised a question about that. So when there are 9. Here are some of my resources I used to put this presentation together today. Thank you for taking the time to listen. While we have made significant progress, the journey towards true equality continues. Thank you.